On yesterday's episode of Life's Potluck Buffet, we drew card 17. Everything that happens to us is only partly our doing. So today I wanted to talk about how a case of tuberculosis in a town in the state of New Jersey in the United States resulted in the stereotypical symbol of Western cowboy culture in the United States and in a lot of places around the world, just United States culture in general. So won't you join me today on Life's Potluck Buffet for a journey into the history of a cultural symbol. And of course, as always, we'll draw a card for today's advice from the Life's Potluck Buffet card deck. This is your host, John Paulus. Thanks for joining me. Where does our story begin? Hundreds of millions of years ago, when the mycobacterium that would evolve into the infectious agent that causes tuberculosis in humans and animals came about. Well, that might be going back too far because we only have around 10 minutes. So instead, let me start in the 19th century, somewhere in the middle of the 19th century, in the township of Orange, New Jersey, in the United States. Orange, New Jersey is outside of Newark, New Jersey, which is not very far from New York City. And for those of you who have flown into the international airport in Newark, New Jersey, you are only a few miles away from the beginning of our story. In that township of Orange, New Jersey, was a hatter. Remember we were talking about hatters the other day? Well, there was a hatter. And that hatter had a son who helped the hatter make hats. And his name was John. And John contracted tuberculosis. Today, we have antibiotics to treat tuberculosis. But in John's day, there were no such things. And the outcome of tuberculosis was often grave. And that meant that John may have had, according to his doctor, a very short time to live, indeed. But John made the most of his time. And he decided to go out west. And out west in the United States, for him, meant to Colorado, to Pikes Peak. And it was there that John, while panning for gold, decided that he would make a hat out of felted animal fur. And the hat was pretty good in the rugged conditions that he and his companions were facing. Well, out in Colorado, John's condition improved remarkably. And so, alive and 35, he headed back east to, well, make hats. And so John opened a factory with $100 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to make these hats. And the hats he made were made out of felted beaver fur, and he called them Boss of the Plains. Boss being a word that in New Jersey Dutch and New York Dutch meant, well, what it means today. And the plains referring to the vast flatlands in the interior of the United States through which he had gone. And the sweatband of the hat bore John B. Stetson's name, as it was the name of his company as well. And that hat, the Boss of the Plains, became wildly popular for its waterproof. In fact, not only was it waterproof, but it could hold water. and its large brim was protective of the rain and the sun, and it became a status symbol. To have one of these hats meant you had made it in America's West. And the hat became known for its maker, Stetson, and different ways of styling the crown with an indentation or multiple indentations came about, and John B. Stetson started manufacturing different styles of the boss of the plains. And those styles included a Carlsbad style, which had a Carlsbad crease. And that's the kind of crease that you see down the middle of modern cowboy hats, and may have started in Carlsbad, New Mexico. And another style had the Montana peak, which was based on Mexican sombreros. And that meant that there were indentations on all four sides of the crown of the hat. And that Montana peak became a popular hat for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and across the world in South Africa, an American scout who wore a Montana Peak Stetson hat became friends with a guy named Robert Baden-Powell, who would borrow the style of the great American scout, his friend, when coming up with the uniform for his scouts, who are known today as the Boy Scouts. And all because a young hatter named John B. Stetson contracted tuberculosis in the town of Orange, New Jersey. So with all that in mind, let's draw a card from the Life's Potluck Buffet deck for today and see what it has to say. So I'm going to do the ritual chant of yellow lemons, blue dumplings, magenta noodles. Cards, tell us some things. All right. And, this is tough because there are several possibilities, but I think this is the one. It's card 16. Turn your greatest weakness into your greatest strength. The guy who wrote Robert's Rules of Order, the rules by which most formal meetings are run in the United States, did so because he didn't know how to run a meeting at his church. So find some area in which you know you are deficient and become proficient in it. It will be a source of flourishing and pride for you. Give that a thought, and who knows, like John B. Stetson, you might just come up with the next big thing, not just for yourself, but for all of us.